Josh, you made me a cup. Did you just promote Brad? I tried to do it, but it looks like I have the function, but it won't let me. It like won't execute.
Hmm. And confirming that we are now live on YouTube.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioners, good to see everyone this evening. How's everyone doing? Greetings from Denver also.
Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Wow, a lot of people are traveling. I guess it makes sense. We're about to enter a holiday weekend. I leave for Maine tomorrow. Josh is in Minnesota. What part of Minnesota are you from again? Like the Rochester area, right?
Winona, the much more prominent of the cities, of course, because Winona Ryder is named after it.
Oh, there it is.
Who knew?
Also, Rochester is definitely more prominent because the Mayo Clinic is based there. And most people know about the Mayo Clinic, but whatever.
Brad, what takes you to Denver? Fun or work?
It is the annual convention of the Automobile License Plate Collectors Association.
Stop it. Is that real? Oh my God, I love this so much. So what do you guys do at said convention?
People will make displays of parts of their collection. So I brought a display, or rather assembled a display this year of pieces I brought in my carry-on bag, and a lot of buying, selling, trading of historic collectibles.
That is awesome.
Commissioner Gallagher, do you collect license plates?
You don't know this?
A fact
No, I'm just having
I
fun.
thought you were serious.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I mean, I'll share one finding that may be of local interest. So, in past years, DC for the mayoral inaugurations issued a special plate. So in 1991, we got this beautiful white on red situation. So I happened to pick this up from a fellow DC-based collector today.
Would you be able to put that on a vehicle, assuming you can have one? But
if in this case, if one had the number 6, I suppose one could without too much consequence, since DC has not recalled old license plates on the road since 1985. But it does clearly say expires March 15th, 1991. So a great.
You can't re-register it, is the thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you could put it on the car. God knows you won't get pulled over either way.
That's true. There you go. All right. Yeah. Well, we are 2 minutes after, so I'll go ahead and we can get started. And Josh, again, just to confirm, we're good to go. We're live.
We are live on YouTube.
All right. I now call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Welcome to ANC 1E's June General Body Meeting. A few administrative notes. Today's meeting is being recorded. Closed caption is available for each user by clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions through the Q&A function located on the toolbar below as well. If you are calling in rather than participating through the web, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. We'll be monitoring questions throughout the meeting. I'll now ask Secretary Jacobson to please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Footer. I will now conduct the roll. Commissioner Gallagher.
Present.
Commissioner Lancaster. I do not see Commissioner Lancaster in the attendee list either. Commissioner Ray.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Newland.
Present.
Commissioner Jacobson, present, and Commissioner Footer.
Present.
All right, with 6 of 7 seated commissioners in attendance, we have a quorum.
Great. I apologize. I should have started by sharing my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Moving on. So per DC law, the ANC 1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. Moving to the approval of the agenda, I'm going to read through it real quick for participants that may not be joining us via web. We next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda. Included in the consent agenda, we have the approval of the May minutes. We have a resolution requesting the Department of Buildings to respond to structural integrity concerns on Sherman Avenue. We have a resolution requesting prioritization of 3 already submitted TSI requests, approval of Q2 financial reports, and approval of an SOP amendment that's adding some language and structure around responding to TOPS for individual commissioners. Then we'll go to community announcements and presentations. We have a special guest with us tonight, Dr. William Blake with Cardozo Education Campus. And then we'll go through our regular cadence of having commissioners, then the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, otherwise known as MOCRS, and then Councilmember Brand Nadeau's office. And then we'll kick it to members of the community for comments. We'll then go to official business. We have quite a lengthy agenda this evening, and we will start with Zoning and Economic Development Committee, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 resolutions under there. Then we have the Transportation and Public Space Committee, which we have 3 resolutions there, and then Public Safety and Engagement Committee with 1 resolution. And then we will wrap it up and call it an evening. Are there any additions, amendments to the agenda? Yes, Commissioner Ray.
Yeah, Chair, we can actually remove the approval of the Q2 financial report. You may recall we got an email from the office that they're going to do that for us. We'll still have to approve it next month, but they're going to write it up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Right. Any other?
I was just going to, sorry, I was just going to ask if we could maybe move the discussion about 8th Street to the last item in the transportation section. I may have to hop off early since I'm with my parents, and I am probably more needed for the first or the last 2 resolutions since I wrote the other 2.
So you want to move this to the end of your...
Yeah, just in case other things go late and I need to hop off early.
Absolutely. All right. Any other amendments? Commissioner Jacobson, would it be better to actually push you up to go first?
If people are okay with that, yeah, that might work better. I'll at least need to stick around for Medusa's discussion, but
it would
appreciate it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Don't visit my parents as often as I should, so.
Absolutely fair. All right. With that, I will accept a motion to approve the agenda.
Here motioned.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the agenda signify or raise your hand. Signify aye by raising your hand. 1, 2,
Aye.
4, 5. Great. Thank you. All those opposed, raise your hand. And any abstentions? All right. With 6 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. All right. So we will now move to the consent agenda. Just as a reminder, commissioners and members of the community can use this, wrong speech. Hold on one moment. My apologies. Just a reminder, all matters listed under consent are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by 1 motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. There is no debate that is part of the consent agenda. Are there any items within the consent agenda that commissioners wish to move to official business or for further discussion? Hearing none. I'll now accept a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the consent agenda as listed.
Thank you. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, the motion passes and the consent agenda is adopted. And the matters listed are adopted. All right, we are moving along. Next, we will go to community announcements. Commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. For members of the public, if you are here to discuss an item listed under official business, please hold your comments until we get to that item on the agenda. We'll start with the special guest presentation from Dr. William Blake with the Cardozo Education Campus, who will have 5 minutes. We'll then move to commissioners, members, then the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, also known as Smokers, then the representative from Councilmember Brianna Doe's office, then members of the public. Except for the guest presentation, all speakers have 3 minutes. For members of the public, please indicate you would like to speak by raising your hand using the button on the toolbar below. If you're calling in rather than participating online, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. I'll call on members of the public in order that you raise your hand. All right, with that, if we can promote Dr. William Blake to presenter, we will get started with our first presentation. Welcome, Dr. Blake.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Also, I believe I have some team members on. You should see Arthur Mola and LaShawn Jones, if they could be promoted as well, if possible.
I see LaShawn, and I just promoted LaShawn. I do not see an Arthur.
Okay, well, yeah, LaShawn is fine. And if Arthur Mola ever pops up, he could be promoted as well. All right. And I'm going to share my screen.
Great.
All right. Awesome. Well, good afternoon, good evening. Our goal today is to share with you all the school redesign / transformation process that is happening at Cardozo High School this upcoming school year. To give you all some context, DCPS has joined forces with this philanthropy company called XQ, and XQ are experts in rethinking high schools. And over the next 5 to 7 years, every high school in DCPS will have the opportunity to kind of raise their hand to say, you know what? I want to be a part of this redesign process, and I want to design some new innovative instructional programming that is going to meet the needs of our students. Cardozo High School was one of the schools that raised their hands late last summer, and we had the opportunity of filling out a very detailed and rigorous application. And in that application, we created this bold idea that we wanted to launch within our school community. And we received the go-ahead and the green light to launch this big, bold idea next school year. And this bold idea, it included several stakeholders, our staff, our students, our parents, our families. And out of all of that engagement, we heard a common theme that students and families, they want to become empowered to truly take charge of their economic futures. So I'm just going to jump right into actually our redesign piece, where our school concept, beginning next year, we're going to create a school community where we are building the entrepreneurship mindset amongst our student population. We want to prepare our students to become entrepreneurs and give them the tools and provide them with the resources or to start small businesses that will eventually become these CEO Fortune 500 companies if they choose to travel down that lane. But we want to provide them with foundational entrepreneurship skills that will give them the opportunity and the autonomy to truly take control of their economic futures. The way that we're going to do this, we're going to do it by several strategies. We're going to pair students up with the mental health advocate. We're going to pair students up with the financial advisor. And we're also going to pair students up with the academic advisor. By doing so, these trio of advisors will be able to provide whole child wraparound services to students, in addition to providing them access in the resources around experiential opportunities that will lead to becoming a full-fledged entrepreneur. In addition, we are going to add additional what you call CTE pathways, career and technical education pathways, to teach students the entrepreneurship mindset behind those pathways. For an example, we're going to incorporate the pathway of graphic arts and media design, the pathway of culinary arts, the pathway of teacher education and preparation, and the pathway of engineering. Within those pathways, we are going to build student capacity around the entrepreneurship opportunities within those pathways. And they could take this knowledge to college. They could take it to careers. They could take it to trade schools, military, the workforce, or they could take it into opening up their own businesses within those pathways. We are excited about this work. We have been doing some deep engagement and some deep design around this work. And we're going to kick off the first phase of this design this upcoming school year. Within the next 3 to 4 years, we plan to have this model full scale within our school community, where every student from every grade level is going to be able to experience some type of new and innovative entrepreneurship classroom experience that is going to truly prepare them to become entrepreneurs. So some of the student outcomes that we expect to come out of this, we want to increase our student enrollment, increase our student attendance, provide these experiential learning opportunities for our students around the field of entrepreneurship, by still ensuring that rigorous interdisciplinary instruction is taking place within our classrooms. And this will ultimately lead students to thrive in college and careers and to become ready to thrive post-graduation. So when we talk about the word redesign, this is what we are talking about, and this is what we are envisioning. And we are excited to launch this off with our students this upcoming school year. And we are continuing to kind of refine the structures so that we can have a successful launch. So for all the parents and families on the call, if you have a high school student or even a middle school student that is of school age to attend Cardozo, and they have aspirations to become an entrepreneur and they want to solve problems that are going to change the world, we definitely want to say that Cardozo is a school for them. And that is my presentation around our redesign piece at Cardozo Education Campus.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Blake. Commissioners, any questions for Dr. Blake? Yes, Commissioner Brown.
Hey, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Well, I see LaShawn turn her camera on. LaShawn, did you have any comments that you can cut into my time?
So no, actually, I support Dr. Blake with the redesign work at Cardozo. I am the Connected Schools Manager. So I'm responsible for managing external and internal partnerships as they relate to the school body. One part that Dr. Blake didn't mention is that a heavy lift of this work is the Learning Lab Fridays, where we are actually seeking the support of companies, business, and individuals to spearhead enrichment programming for the first 90 minutes of every Friday. It doesn't have to be the full school year, but if we can secure you for 9 weeks, it's beautiful.
And my question is, do you have, does your program have the ability and capacity to scale to other schools?
Repeat that again. I didn't hear that.
Does your program have the ability and capacity to scale to other schools?
So that's a great question. So when it comes to this redesign opportunity, each school community have the opportunity to design what type of redesign is best for them, right? So the ultimate goal is for every high school and DCPS to have a new and innovative redesign model. Another school, if they want to create some type of financial literacy or entrepreneurship concept, they definitely have the opportunity to do that through this redesign process. However, as of right now, we are the only school that is pretty much creating and designing this entrepreneurship model. But through the redesign process, if a school wants to elevate it and take it a step further, they have the opportunity to do so if that is what their community and stakeholders are lifting up through their community engagement.
Other questions? I just have one quick question. I love this topic so much, and I applaud you for diving in on this particular topic. But is there something that drew you to trying to really cultivate entrepreneurship? Have you witnessed a lot of demand, all of that? I personally really support it and love it, but I'm intrigued to hear if there's been a lot of need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to make sure, did Arthur Mola ever sign on? If not, it's okay.
I still do not see Arthur.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. So we came up with this idea through our community engagement. When it came to this redesign, we had some very clear directives that the school could not make this decision in isolation, meaning the principal, myself, Ms. Jones, we could not get in the room and come up with this bold idea. We had to engage our staff, our students, our parents, our community partners. And the collective themes that we heard from those stakeholders was, how can we empower students to learn financial literacy? How can we empower students to take control of their economic futures? The reason that came up, and I'm sure many of you all know, our community, over half of our population is of the Hispanic descent. And when you look at the data and when you look at the societal norms, coupled with African Americans, our Hispanic populations are the most marginalized subgroup in the nation. And that population is typically subjected to like low wage jobs. And we want to kind of disrupt that stereotype and disrupt that narrative, and providing the opportunity for all of our students to, you know what, you will decide how much money that you can make. You will decide how hard that you will work based on us pouring in and developing this entrepreneurship mindset. And that was a common theme that we have heard over and over and over again throughout our engagement that has led us to this bold idea.
Great. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Gallier.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Dr. Blake. LaShawn, thanks so much for your time this evening. And yeah, sounds like just such a great program, since I think we all recognize that entrepreneurship is one of the most effective ways to get out of particularly generational poverty. So this sounds great. And kind of, as you said earlier, I know each of the commissioners, we would be enthusiastic about promoting this to any constituents with appropriately aged kids. Is there anything else that the ANC could do to help you all out with this? Or what can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. Make LaShawn and I your best friends. We want to truly get in front of your audiences. We want to truly get in front of your constituents, because your constituents are our families within our school community. Your constituents are our families within our Ward 1, boundaries. And we want to let them know that Cardozo could be a #1 choice for your student, for your family, because of the redesign process and the redesign opportunities that we're providing. So just make us your best friends. We want to be your POCs for all type of engagement, so that we could truly get in front of your constituents, just to share and just to expose them, and they can make their decisions if they want to make Cardozo their first choice.
Great. Well, Dr. Blake, thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you don't mind maybe sharing that presentation, I'm happy to share it across the commission. And we look forward to hearing from you again soon. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you all. You have a good one.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So next we have, we'll turn to commissioners. So do any commissioners have announcements or anything that they would like to? Sorry, yes, Commissioner Brown.
Yes, I'd like to give an update on improvements to Bruce Monroe Park located at 3000 Georgia Avenue. So I have been working with the Department of Parks and Rec on improvements to the park, small incremental improvements that involve the replacement of the tennis court nets. It involves replacement of swing sets, particularly plastic seats or rubber seats, and chains to 2 swing sets at Bruce Monroe Park. We're currently waiting on seats for 1 particular swing set. So we have that in the pipeline. Does not need procurement, does not need an order. We're just waiting on DDOT. We're just waiting on DPR to replace those seats. And also the replacement of large size kind of jungle gym and flooring, rubber flooring that's supporting the structure. So that would need procurement. So for folks that are concerned, interested in what's happening with the park, any improvements, those kind of incremental low cost improvements have been currently made. We're waiting on that 1 swing set to be addressed, but the kind of large jungle gym and the flooring to support that that needs procurement. I mean, Councilmember Nadeau's office has offered support to ensure that DPR has the proper funding to support the replacement of this. This is not by any means connected to the long-term redevelopment that's connected to the development for Bruce Monroe. That is separate conversation, but we do want to make sure that the park is safe and healthy, and for children and families to really use the playground equipment and to eliminate those risks that we once had at the park. So just wanted to give that update to the community. Welcome any questions, but just wanted to share that update for the commission and ANC at large.
Fantastic, thank you. Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you. I will keep this as brief as I can. Couple of quick updates. One, I did a walkthrough with the police lieutenant of the area for my portion of 1E, and he just wanted me to remind folks that if you experience package thefts, if you have a car window broken, please report it to police. If you're having issues with the form, please call 311. That helps them understand where hotspots are and can reallocate resources and adjust lighting and things like that. I also did a walkthrough with council members Janice Lewis George and Nadeau of Banneker Pool and the park area about a week and a half ago. I know some folks have asked about the diving board at Banneker. There are some issues with the depth of the pool and being able to support a diving board. We're hoping to hear back from DC Health over the next couple of weeks though. And I know Banneker is a popular place for the workout classes, and it's been very hot in there because the AC isn't working. So they're hoping to get those cooling units replaced over the next week or two. But I'll provide an update on that as soon as I get it. And the last thing I'll mention is I have gotten a few questions. This is slightly outside of our commission since it's on the border of 1B and 1E, but since I've gotten questions about it, the retaining wall for Garfield Terrace is starting to crumble, and there have been a lot of trash issues there. So I reached out to DCHA. They are having a contractor come out to figure out what exactly to do with it. And then for the trash bins, I'm working with 1B, or for the trash in the area, I'm working with 1B to ask DPW for some bins along that western portion of Sherman because it just gets filled with a lot of trash. And then since I still have a minute left, the last thing I'll mention, I know there are a lot of requests for getting bins replaced on Georgia Avenue. Pretty excited to announce that we got 3 of them added back in, one on Georgia and Fairmont, or sorry, one on Georgia and Euclid, and then 2 on Georgia and Fairmont, one on the north side, which is in Commissioner Newland's district, and one on the south side in my district. And that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements from commissioners? All right. Well, we will next go to the mayor's office for community relations. I'm not sharing my screen. Am I? Hold on 1 second. Let me share my screen. All right. Next, we'll go to Portia Foreman with Mayor's Office with Mokers. Portia, are you, or can we promote Portia?
I think someone beat me to it because I do not see Portia in the list, and I saw her earlier.
You actually just texted me. Let me see.
Oh, okay. Maybe she got disconnected.
She did. She had to jump for an emergency. She did give me a list of updates. I will share this with everybody via email. And we can go to Kevin Pham with Councilmember Brianna Nadeau's office. If you see Kevin,
He is being promoted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Kevin. Good. Welcome.
Great. Give me 1 second. Hi everyone. My name is Kevin. I work for Councilmember Brianna Nadeau. I'm just going to share a brief update coming from our office. The council member filed legislation recently to address how sexual harassment complaints against mayoral appointees should be handled. The legislation, which was recently introduced, would require the district's inspector general to hire outside independent counsel to investigate sexual harassment complaints against mayoral appointees, including deputy mayors, agency and sub-agency heads, as well as those appointed by the mayors to board and commission. This first permanent legislation would apply to future complaints only. Subsequently, the council member is also preparing an emergency bill that would apply retroactively to complaints against the former chief of staff, John Faucicchio, regarding sexual harassment allegations against him. She noted that the second piece of legislation, the emergency legislation, would be filed before next Thursday filing deadline for emergency bills to be taken up at the July 11th meeting. It's emergency legislation. It would require a vote and become law that day. And the emergency legislation would directly address the 2 complaints against Faucicchio and concerns that the investigation should have been conducted by independent counsel and not by the mayor's office of legal counsel, which reports directly to the mayor. Currently, 1 investigation has been completed and was released last weekend, and the other is still in progress. And that's all the updates from me.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Kevin? Yes, Commissioner Gallagher.
I'll be that guy and say more of a comment than a question, but thanks so much, Kevin, for that update. And please convey at least my thanks personally to Councilmember Nadeau for the latest in a years of attempts to hold the mayor accountable when there appears to be conflicts of interest, including one that is so extremely obvious in this case. So thank you very much for that update. Really appreciate it.
Great, I'll pass that along.
Great. I will just add, I had a touch point with the council member this week, and we talked about a number of issues. Commissioner Ray and Commissioner Gallagher, I'm going to be reaching out to you guys specifically to add something to the ZED, Zoning and Economic Development Committee meeting. We can actually talk about if that's the best place for it, but that would be my recommendation. It's around some of the borders for the proposed borders for main streets. And it specifically impacts my SMD, but does have some impacts across the greater Georgia Avenue, particularly the lower Georgia Avenue main street. So I'll touch base with you guys. I suggested that to the council member that we would try to consider it in our July meeting, considering that we are going to be on an August recess. So I'll reach out to you guys after the meeting and we can touch base about that then. Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Now we will turn to members of the public. If you are interested in providing an announcement, please raise your hand. If you are calling in and you are not participating via the web, feel free to dial *9 to indicate that you would like to come off mute and you have a question or a comment or announcement. I will give it a moment to see if people are interested and members of the community can raise their hand. All right. Well, with that, we will move on to official business. So we organize official business into our 3 standing committees. The committee chairs will begin by providing a brief update on their committee's activities from June. Then we will walk through each item of business and have 5 minutes per item to present. They'll take questions from commissioners and audience members until a motion is proposed. So the first item based on the revamp to the agenda is the Transportation and Public Space Committee, and I will give it over to Commissioner Jacobson to start off with his update.
Thank you so much, Chair Footer. Quick reminder, or I guess reminder for me, do you usually share the resolution on the screen or do I share it?
I do.
Just blanking. Okay, cool.
Do you want to do the update first and then I'll do the resolution? Or
Yep.
Want to do that first?
So this month in our TPS committee, we talked about 3 resolutions, one around updating scooters speeds. High level there is right now the speed limit is 10 miles an hour across the district. There is technology to detect when it is on the sidewalk, but that is not in use. So the ask here is to the District Department of Transportation to increase speed limits to 15 miles an hour on the roadway and 7.5 miles an hour on the sidewalk. That will incentivize people to use the roadway, reduce potential injuries on the sidewalk. I know there's a question previously about whether or not that would impact scooter injuries. From the one study that I saw that was nationwide, or sorry, I'm getting into too many details at this point. So the second one is around highway education funds on ATE. That's just a change that came with the Inflation Reduction Act that allows highway education funds to be used for automated traffic enforcement cameras. And then the last one is something that Chair Footer has been working on related to 8th Street, which runs through his district and some proposed changes there. And it's more of a conversation starter with DDOT and the rest of the community. And so now I will go into more depth on the scooter speed shift. So this is something that I believe is just went through 1B, but it might actually be going into their next meeting. I know it was at least considered at their committee meeting and passed with unanimous consent, and it was passed at 1E's TPS meeting with unanimous consent. So the idea here is that scooters have become quite popular. There is some barrier to people using them, and that's that they're rather slow compared to bicycles. The average bicycle commuter goes about 15 miles an hour. That's obviously excluding e-bikes, but a lot of the traffic that you see in protected bike lanes and such are people on non-electric bikes, and they're going about 15 miles an hour. So if we can update the scooters to 15 miles an hour, that allows another mode of transportation that isn't vehicles and can help incentivize folks to use fewer personal vehicles in DC. Places like Austin that have a 20 mile an hour speed limit have much lower ridership on sidewalks. Sidewalk riding is associated with more injuries with pedestrians. And the scooters that we have in the district do have the capability of detecting whether or not they are on a sidewalk. The scooter vendors do not enable them though, because there is no incentive for them to enable them and lower the speed. So this would create a dual track that would incentivize the scooter or the dockless scooter vendors to increase the speed generally to match what we see in protected bike lanes and other side lanes, and then decrease on the sidewalk. So there's a reduction of injury there. And yeah, I think I mentioned this, but current speed is 10 miles an hour and then 15 on the road and 7.5 on sidewalks. And I will take questions now.
Commissioners, any questions? I have a comment and a question. The question first, if I remember correctly, I was with you when this was kind of originally discussed when we went to the DDOT open house, and the woman who was kind of talking about it was also saying that there might be some thing around noise making in these. Is that something that's included?
Oh.
We want to include that as a safety measure so that people can be more aware that there's a scooter going on?
I don't think I included that here, and that was a mistake. So we can just add a quick whereas clause after there exists sidewalk, or where is it? After be it resolved, after the first be it resolved, say further, and then the second be it resolved would then be, or no, sorry, after
you want
be
to
it
be
resolved.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so be it resolved that ANC 1E urges DDOT to also require the scooters emit a noise when they are riding on the sidewalk to further discourage ridership on the sidewalk and to warn pedestrians that are walking about a scooter if someone is riding on the sidewalk. Thank you, Chair Footer. That is a great idea.
Something like that. I mean, I would, if you want to use that language a little bit, I think that's okay. My second piece is, which is more of a statement, is just I had a number of questions around this when you first introduced the idea, because I think intuitively increasing speed does not necessarily equate to safety. And shockingly, based on some of the information that you guys have shared, that it does. that it actually increasing the speed makes it more in line with the different traffic that's already taking place. And it actually, if I remember correctly, gets the participant, the person, through intersections quicker, therefore reducing the amount of opportunity for harm. And so I just wanted to point that out, that even though it may not seem intuitive that increasing speed is a safety measure, it actually is.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right. We will turn to members of the public. If you have a question or a comment related to this resolution, please feel free to raise your hand. Again, if you are calling in rather than participating through the web, you can dial *9. All right, seeing none. If there are no other questions, I'll now accept a motion on the resolution.
I motion with unanimous consent to adopt the resolution with the slight change that we had discussed on the meeting around the noise.
Great. Is there any dissent? Right, hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, Josh, your second resolution.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so the second, oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Jacobs, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I ask a little question? When we do unanimous consent, does that mean these motion, so if there's 6 of us present, does that mean the vote winds up being 6-0-0? Is that just, okay, thanks. Just for my edification, appreciate it.
This is resolution number 3. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so this resolution is recommending DC's Highway Safety Office to use the highway education funds or use a portion of them for automated traffic enforcement cameras in school zones. So background here is that with the Inflation Reduction Act, previously this money could only be used for driver education, asking them to slow down, things like that. With the change in the Inflation Reduction Act, cities can now use this money for the driver education and then automated traffic enforcement cameras in both school zones and active work zones. Since we have several school zones in our ANC, I thought that that would be a good target for now. And I know that the Highway Safety Office is currently going through their tri-annual highway safety plan. And so this is just to ask them and make a formal recommendation as a commission that as part of that safety plan, they use automated traffic enforcement in high-risk areas such as school zones. And then one of the other pieces that I resolve in here is that ideally revenue from these additional cameras would be to go toward physical traffic calming or other measures to slow down dangerous drivers near schools.
Commissioners, any questions? Right. Hearing none, we'll ask members of the public if you are interested in asking a question or a comment related to this resolution. Please feel free to raise your hand. Again, if you are joining us by phone rather than on the web, you can dial *9.
And then really quick, one other thing that I forgot to mention I saw in one of these whereas clauses, just forgot that I'd written this. But the National Highway Safety Traffic Press Administration, I do not remember what the acronym stands for, but they've determined that driver education is or they haven't determined that driver education is actually effective. So there isn't really evidence that driver education helps, whereas ATEs do generally slow people down or slow vehicles down.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anything in your resolution, or have you ever considered school guard crossing guards? I thought that there was legislation in the previous council period, either introducing some kind of increased support or funding for school crossing guards.
There isn't.
ATEs are like nice, but I think they're just traffic calming measures around school zones that could be elevated through this resolution.
Yeah, I agree with you on the, I think they're traffic safety technicians. I do not remember the full terminology there. I don't think it makes sense to include in this resolution, but I'm happy to work on something with you for a future resolution, just because this is directed at the Highway Safety Office for their planning that they're working on currently, and none of this money can be used for safety technicians. The only other uses are ATEs in school zones and work zones. But I do agree with you with the safety technicians. They do a lot of great work at the school near me, and I know that they can't be everywhere at once, and there are other places that they could be utilized near the schools that would just require more funding for them.
Great. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, hearing none, I'll now accept. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brown, were you speaking? You're on mute if you're no. Okay. If there are no other questions, I will take a motion on the resolution.
Oh, point of order, Chair Footer, should we ask the community members for comments? I'm not sure if we already did.
I did, yes. I think that you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah.
Is there a motion?
I motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, at this time, I am going to pass the gavel to Vice Chair Brown so that I may participate in discussion around the next resolution, which is on the 8th Street transportation package. Upon completion of the vote on the resolution, Vice Chair Brown will pass the gavel back to me and we'll continue on down the agenda. So with that, Commissioner Brown, you have the gavel.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to the next item as part of Commissioner Jacobson's update for the transportation and public safety. This item is regarding the 8th Street transportation package, a resolution on that. Chair recognizes Commissioner Jacobson.
And in turn, I recognize Commissioner Footer, who wrote this resolution.
Thank you. So I'm very excited to share this with the full commission. I've been working on it for quite a number of months. Essentially, when I was campaigning, there were a variety of different things all along 8th Street that people were continuing to express needed some attention and some reform. And during the campaign, I talked about an approach of how to address these things in a comprehensive manner. And so starting in January, I started to do research, and that started off with doing an on-the-ground assessment and trying to really dive into what some of the issues might be and what are the root causes of some of those things. It started to materialize around 4 specific areas: streetlights, traffic, parking, and sidewalks. There were a variety of different things that were promoting these kind of buckets, and they're not mutually exclusive, they're interrelated. But with this assessment and taking pictures and all of that, started to do research on ways that we could start to address some of these things and what are some of the causes for these things actually being an issue. With that, started to have conversations with the government and with members of the public to try and understand exactly what made sense, what were some realistic approaches to try and address this. With that, came up with 10 different recommendations and took it to the community to vote. And it was open to the community to vote for 3 weeks. We had 80 individuals that participated in the vote, which as residents that actually live on 8th Street, that accounts for about 20% of occupants in the Atlantic Plumbing Building. So it had a really good turnout in participating in providing feedback on these. As a result of that, one of the recommendations was removed because it didn't hit the threshold of being staying within the package. And then we transformed one into 3 different recommendations in the final package. And then there was one additional recommendation that came from the public that we were able to include. So with that, we have a total of 13 recommendations, again, bucketed into the 4 different areas. And here, you'll notice that it really is calling for the action statement in here is to work with the appropriate agency in order to execute on these things. So the things that I know you guys have all seen this package a couple of times. So I'll hold it here so people can read through what the 13 different recommendations are while I talk about what the next steps are in the resolution. So next steps, and one way to really kind of think about this is that it really is a bit of a conversation starter. This should be perceived as the people's voice. They are articulating what are some of the things that they would like and what they believe are reasonable requests. But what's going to happen next is that we're going to have to actually go through the process of trying to get some of these things, such as going through and submitting a TSI so that the DDOT can actually come out and do an assessment and all of that. So this is not meant to be perceived as that this is the hard, fast thing that we absolutely must have, and this is the end of the line. This is our recommendations, and we're going to work with the government in order to try and make these things happen or amend them so that it's in the people's best interest. That also goes with working with members of the community and trying to see how we can make sure that it's inclusive and that it meets all the different demands and brings resolve to some of the issues at the heart of the matter. So there are a couple of things that have started. For example, an easy kind of thing in here around installing public trash cans, which that has made some movement. There is one thing on here about a stop sign. I already got word that that's going to be happening soon. So a number of these things have already started to make some headway, and we look forward to continuing to kind of move through it. So I will stop talking there and ask if there are any questions.
Commissioner, have any questions, but also you might want to address the recording issue first.
Sorry, that I was trying to raise my hand and I hit the recording start and stop button by accident. We are already live on YouTube, so you don't need to worry about the recording.
But the recording paused.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because it's live on YouTube. It's just not recording to Zoom Cloud, which is fine because we don't have that much space on Zoom Cloud.
I see. Okay. Commissioners have any questions? Would like to recognize the chair, Chair Jacobson.
Oh, yeah, just quick question, because I think just to make this clear, I think what you're saying then is that this is just the start of the conversation. This will give us some starting the negotiation or what have you with DDOT and DPW and other members of the community. And then after we get more feedback, maybe some of these things start being implemented or there are more questions about it, is your plan that you would then take it back to the TPS committee and get some more feedback from the community that way, or just go with the way it is, and then if we need to make adjustments, then it'll just be handled offline?
That's a great question. And to be honest, I hadn't thought that far through it. I would suggest, I would say just off the cuff, that if it's a big enough change, then it definitely would suggest bringing it back to the committee and then getting feedback on that. If it is a minor tweak, then I think we should just continue to move forward. But another way to kind of look at this is that, you know, the ANCs provide recommendations, right? It's up to the government to actually end up for providing an answer. And so a little bit of this is going to be out of our hands when I, you know, submit a TSI. And it may be that they say, no, thanks. And that it just means that I'm going to have to advocate harder or something along those lines. And then they may come back and say that we did an assessment and we can do 1, 2, and 3, but not going to do what you have here. And in that case, it you know, would go through the natural process of, if they did a notice of intent, then we would go to your committee, all those kinds of things. So I think that there are a variety of ways that the ANC will continue to be informed about this, and then we'll have another chance to maybe weigh in. But I would say, as far as, you know, if there are decisions that are being made, if they're small enough, then I think that we will just go forward. But if they're really big ticket items, then for sure it will come back to the ANC.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open it up to the community. Any questions or comments from the community? I see a hand raised. Wendell Felder. If we can promote him. All right, Wendell.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. And, you know, good. Always want to make sure I'm correct. Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be before ANC 1E. I just want to commend the work that Commissioner Footer has gone into or put into producing this transportation report. I just wanted to say this for the record, that Howard had an opportunity to review the transportation report. And because some of Commissioner Footer's recommendations will impact our Lot 3 building, Bond Bread, as well as our East Towers, we wanted to make sure that we gave our feedback. And some of the majority of the recommendations we couldn't support, but we still want to be a good community partner. I see that within your resolutions recommendations, you mentioned reaching out to DPW specifically with trash collections and doing street sweeps. And I would love to be supportive in that effort, just so we can continue to be good community partners. But with that being said, I just wanted to go on record saying that what was in the transportation report, we didn't fully support it based on how that would impact our development projects. But, you know, if there's other things that we can be supportive of, and or when it's time to initiate the broader conversation with the respected DC government agencies, whether that's GDOT, DPW, we would love to be at the table. Commissioner Footer and I, we had a great conversation, and we came to the conclusion that the reality is we have different roles in this battle to make our neighborhood a better place. And we walked away okay with that. So with that being said, I do commend them for the work that has gone into this resolution, and we look forward to continuing this partnership.
Thank you, Wendell. Appreciate your comments and your partnership. Chair now recognizes Patrick Nelson. I believe his hand was up. Can we promote him?
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of discussion here because I think it's not appropriate. I can have one off on some of this, but I will say that I'm a little concerned on the format on how this has taken place, and I think it's just steered towards one section. I will say, Brian, that I'm glad that you took the time tonight to go through this, because when I first read this, I was chomping at the bit to call you and give you a piece of my mind, but I figured I would wait and see what came out tonight. I appreciate that you took the time to go through all of this stuff and explain that this is just an opening salvo, if you want to use that word, and that nothing is written in stone, because there are some serious issues on what's being proposed in here that I personally do not agree with, and I think that there's a little bit of historical knowledge that has been left off here as to, what transpired on 8th Street from the day that JBG bought that property that you live in now, and what we went through as a community before you moved into that building and dealt with JBG on how they constructed that and all of the issues that related to that building, and what has been proposed on some of these things as far as putting, without being mean, the blame on Howard for is not really valid. And some of the things that you're asking for, Howard has absolutely no control over. I've been working on this for many, 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 many years. And without being disrespectful, you just got elected to this commission. You just moved into that building a short time ago. And you can speak to the powers that be at Howard, but I work very hard personally, not as a commissioner, as a community member, to deal with all of the issues that you're talking about now before you started this conversation. I'm glad you're working on it. I'm not dissing you for doing that, but I think you need to be very careful and cautious on how you move forward on pushing some of these issues, because they're strategically very important to a lot of different areas of construction and development and everything. This has been almost 30 years of my life dealing with Howard and trying to get some of these projects through. So like I said, I commend you on doing this, but just be careful on how you move forward.
Thank you, Patrick, for that. Any other questions or comments from the community? Okay, seeing none.
Sure. If I could just address one or two.
Sure.
First to just Patrick, I would love to talk to you about it. I always respect your great knowledge and institutional knowledge and sharing all of that with us. I would love to hear what concerns you may have. I think we are all working towards the same goal. I may be new, but I was elected to promote the voice of the people who actually now live here. And I'm very, very honored to be able to take the mantle of what has been done over the past 30 some years and, continue to move forward and, continue to move as this neighborhood evolves. What was good for the neighborhood 30 years ago may not be good for the neighborhood now. And it's my responsibility now to start to promote some of those things. And so I look forward to those conversations, and I do not say that as disrespect to the history. We're always doomed to repeat it if we don't understand it, and I'm very interested in hearing about it. And then to Howard University, I greatly respect working with you guys, and we are great. I think you guys are great community partners, and I feel like this is a great step in starting to have a very fruitful conversation about trying to implement some of the community's concerns, ideas for trying to impact our neighborhood. and that, you know, we'll do it with the conversations with the government. And, you know, everything that we put in here has had a great deal of research been put into it in order to make sure that we weren't setting false expectations. Again, that doesn't mean it's set in stone, but, you know, these things seem to be quite reasonable from the government's perspective, and the people voted on it. And so this isn't my just idea. This is now the people's voice. You know, with 20% of the people who live on this actual building or live on this street and actually deal with this day to day, saying that this is what they want. And I think that's powerful and it's important and it can't be dismissed. And so business interests are extremely important, and making sure that it's an inviting neighborhood is great. And we need to also balance that with the safety and disruption that people feel from things that have been ignored. And that's what this is starting to do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are you ready for a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Footer? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Seconded.
Seconded. Oh, sorry.
Motion made by Commissioner Footer and seconded by Commissioner Newland. Motion is moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, with 6 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstentions, motion passes, and the resolution is adopted. Thank you all. We'll move to the next item, and I give the gavel back to Chair Footer.
Thank you very much. All right, going back to the agenda. So Commissioner Jacobson, that I believe is the end. Did you want to wrap up with anything? Maybe just announce what your next agenda or next meeting is?
Yep. Next meeting is Wednesday, July 5th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And I'm finalizing the agenda tonight. We'll get that posted to our website.
Great. Thank you. All right, now moving on to the Zoning and Economic Development Committee. Commissioner Gallagher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Footer. So ANC 1E Zoning and Economic Development Committee met on the 14th. Just as a note, it will next meet on July 12th, also at 7 p.m., possibly under the very capable acting leadership of Commissioner Ray. A link to that meeting will be on our website, anc1e.org. So on the 14th, we heard from the applicants in Zoning Commission case 23-09. That's for 650 and 654 Morton Street. That would be to convert the zoning designation for those two parcels from RF1 to RA3. I saw at least earlier that Ms. Wilson, representing the applicant, is present. So if there are any questions for her or she has any comments, if we could promote her to panelist while we talk about this zoning commission case. I note that there are also a couple of zoning and economic development committee members here today as well. So I just wanted to thank you for your continued service and careful consideration of what can sometimes be contentious zoning issues. Luckily, in this case, though, there did not appear to be any contention. The applicants described their extensive outreach efforts to neighbors, including mailing thousands of postcards to those around ANC 1E01 and 1E02. And as far as we know, no objections were received to this proposal. So just to kind of describe what these alphanumeric combinations mean. The RF1 zone, so that's the current situation, is intended for areas that are mostly row houses on small lots with no more than 2 dwelling units per lot. The maximum height allowed is 35 feet, and the maximum lot occupancy is 60%. So the proposed change to the RA3 zone, so in RA3, that keeps the same cap on the number of dwelling units per lot. The changes are to the maximum permitted height, that's to 60 feet, and as opposed to the current 35 feet, and the maximum lot occupancy rises to 75% from the current 60%. So after some discussion, and it seemed like the general sense of the Zoning and Economic Development Committee, we're thinking about the proximity of the properties in question to the major thoroughfare of Georgia Avenue and its commercial uses and tall buildings. Well, tall for DC, thanks to the height limit. And then given the adjacent redevelopment of Park Morton, along with no noted negative effects on adjacent properties or the integrity of the zone generally, the committee had no issues or concerns with the application, and it voted unanimously to endorse the application, or that is to recommend that this body resolve in support of the application to the Zoning Commission. So I've learned that we don't need a formal resolution on this matter, but merely that we need to submit to the Zoning Commission a form listing our recommendations. That's to accept or reject, either with or without concerns or issues noted. So yeah, I'd like to open the floor to any commissioners who might have any questions or comments on this case.
We have a hand raised with Commissioner Ray.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair, and thank you for changing the spelling of Morton Street to an O. So that was going to be my first comment. And then it's just a correction to something that the commissioner said. The number of units does actually change because in the RF1 zone, it's 2 units per lot. By right, and then in this case it'll change to a floor area ratio model, which has to do with how tall the building is versus how much of the lot usage it takes up. So it's a different way of measuring. So I just wanted to point that difference out. But I have no objections to the map amendment. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Ray. Yeah, actually this morning I was looking at the Zoning Commission website with these definitions. So the error that I stated comes directly from a quote on the Zoning Commission website. So apologies for believing everything I read. Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? Seeing none, if there are any questions from members of the public, please indicate by raising your hand. If you're calling in rather than joining us on the web, you can dial *9. And I see that we've promoted Alexandra. Commissioner Gallagher, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Ms. Wilson was representing the applicants in this case, so just wanted to, in case there are any additional comments from the applicants, wanted to offer that opportunity, but solely on an optional basis.
Great. Not seeing any questions from the public. Just point of clarification, just to ask a question. What is the next step after the zoning adjustment? We will have another chance to kind of weigh in on what's actually being built, but this is basically kind of confirming that the size and the intent of what's going to go in there is going to be done.
Sure. So the applicants made it clear this is not a Board of Zoning adjustment case. So as in there's no specific kind of next step of proposed development that they have in mind. A zoning commission case, a map amendment case here. is kind of the first step that could facilitate a future case. But yeah, if there were to be a non-conforming use, if we were to resolve and support and this passed the zoning commission, a future project that is not in compliance with the new RA3 proposed zone would need to go to Board of Zoning Adjustment, and then we would hear that case again in the future.
Great. All right, well, if there are no other questions, no questions from the community, I will accept a motion on the resolution.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we approve the committee's suggestion to approve this project or this map amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
That was unanimous consent, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, is there dissent? You did say unanimous consent. Thank you.
No, sorry.
Any dissent? All right, hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Commissioner Gallagher, moving on to the second
Other
item.
business. Sure. So the next matter, the Zoning and Economic Development Committee heard was our first alcoholic beverage licensing case at the request of this body to devolve some of the debate and time to consider these rather technical issues to the committee level. So that case was with regard to Medusa Lounge, and Commissioner Jacobson has been working tirelessly on this issue. And I think as of today has maybe some additional updates for us. So I'd like to yield to Commissioner Jacobson to walk us through the work he's done on this case. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallagher. Unfortunately, I was unable to get a signature from Medusa Lounge on the settlement agreement. I called them and texted them a few times this week after I got a verbal yes from them, but still do not have the signed document in my hands, which as always would make me nervous. So I'm recommending that instead of approving the settlement agreement, since we do not have a signed document from the owner of Medusa as of this meeting, that we move forward with a protest and then go through that process and can then get the signature from Medusa, or hopefully get the signature at least.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public? Commissioner Brown, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
So if we move forward with the protest, will the amendment, will the, I guess this is a resolution instead of a settlement agreement, be amended to talk about the reasons why the protest is happening? I say that because the commission suggested that of me when I had my protest, and there is kind of like language that we used to elevate that, make that point of clarification before ABRA.
Are you just saying like add language saying that? Yeah, I'm not sure what we would change the language to include. I think this is what we used for your protest, or the protest of Lux. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, it was Skyline. Just because I couldn't reach the owner to you know, get any input on the settlement agreement. It was more of a matter of me not being able to get in contact with him. Then that was kind of made that point of clarification that you know, the commission didn't have any like strong hesitation or anything, you know, any concerns that would be raised, but that was just kind of like the reason why we were moving forward with the protest and giving that point of clarity and making that language clear in the resolution.
Yeah, maybe in the resolution, then we say, the commission's position is that the establishment,
Real
yeah,
quick.
Or that the
So,
commission tried to reach out and, was not able to come, like, to move forward with a settlement agreement.
was it
Something.
Bravo?
It was, I mean, it was Bravo, but it was Skyline was the business. There was an issue with kind of the trade name and the business name. But it was supposed to be Skyline, but yes, Bravo was on the license at the time. It just didn't get changed to Skyline.
I think this is, I just pulled it up just for
The
record.
resolution might say Bravo at the time that we protested, but the settlement agreement should have said Skyline.
yeah, I guess we can just say the commissioner representing SMD 1E06, Commissioner Jacobson, has made multiple attempts to reach the owners of, or reach Medusa Lounge, but has been unsuccessful so far.
Yeah, and to be honest, that was helpful in the owner reaching out to me and us getting to a settlement agreement.
Those are put them side by side, so
Yeah, you want to just paste that in?
yes. Can you just point me to exactly where?
Do you want to just paste it after the first paragraph between the first and second? So before any licensing renewal can be considered, and then before the areas of concern brought to the ANC. Oh, sorry, the commissioner representing SMD 1E04, just that paragraph. The next
This-
paragraph, yep.
And where would you like it?
After the first paragraph. And then obviously change 1E04 to 1E06 and Commissioner Jacobson from Commissioner Brown. And then attempts to reach Casa Lounge LLC. Okay.
Great. All right, any other questions? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written.
All right, any dissent? Right, hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Right, and then last one, Commissioner Gallagher.
Actually, can I interject very quick, Commissioner Footer?
Sure.
I just remembered that we had a sponsorship request from Hoops for All. I need to hop off soon, so I'm wondering if we can just either do that now, or if you are comfortable talking about it, since we're both on the sponsorship request email, and I think we have similar understanding of it.
Yeah, I'm happy to, I'm fine with, we can skip kind of to that first if you want to go ahead and talk through that. And Commissioner Gallagher will come back to you to discuss the St. Vincent's. So Commissioner Jacobson, go for it.
Thank you so much, and apologies, Commissioner Gallagher. Appreciate your graciousness.
Actually, I'm so sorry. If I can just ask, is this required to be considered at this meeting? Are they at a strict timeline?
Yes, because they wanted to have it done by mid-July. Let me find the email. Oh, I guess he did say August 1st, so we can. I did mention to him that we were hoping to have an answer by this meeting. but we could meet his request technically.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend that he come to your committee and actually talk about what, or actually I'm saying your committee, but he should go to a committee and maybe present what is going to be used and, you know, what the event is and how our money is being going to support his event. It is the first time that we're actually going to be doing one of these, so I feel like it might be worth just going through the motions of hearing what it is all about.
That's fair. I don't think we have a good committee identified for sponsorships right now. It does take place in a park, so maybe this one makes sense for me, but I'm not sure how we want to handle that. But we can take that offline, and I can follow up with Hoops for Hope and let them know that we were unfortunately unable to consider it tonight, but would like to have them come to a future meeting and discuss it further.
Makes sense for it to go to public safety and engagement if it's a public engagement type of thing.
That is a fair point. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for jumping around in the agenda.
No.
I appreciate everyone's graciousness.
No, and to that point, if I can just say, you know, I think that we all agreed at the very beginning, we were establishing our rules and all that, that us being timely and us not being the point of or the barrier for people to do things in a timely manner is a very high priority for us. And so I appreciate you bringing it and being diligent in looking at what the timelines would be. And I think that we're all on the same page that it's worth amending our agenda to consider something at the last minute so that they can actually do something that they need to do in the community. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
And then the last comment that I'll add, since there have been previous emails about this, just to clarify, they were okay with the $500 sponsorship instead of the $1,000 sponsorship, given our limited budget. But that will be discussed, it sounds probably like at Commissioner Newland and Commissioner Lancaster's committee soon. So I will take that follow-up and let you all know.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Enjoy Minnesota. All right, so with that, Commissioner Gallagher, we'll kick it back over to you.
Sure. So the next, sorry, Chair Fitter. Next item on the agenda was with regard to St. Vincent's Wine Bar's request to add entertainment to their current license. And the expert on this issue is Commissioner Ray. So with his indulgence, I will yield to him.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing up the agreement. So this is fairly straightforward in that St. Vincent's has operated at that location for many years now. They are not changing their operations in any way. They are simply adding entertainment, live entertainment, to their license. The live entertainment would go on until 10 p.m. during the week indoors and midnight indoors on the weekends. And then outdoors, it would be 10 p.m. at all times. So that's straightforward, the request. They have agreed to sign our settlement agreement, which doesn't ask them to change their hours because they've asked for what I would expect to be a very modest hours for live entertainment. They're actually less than I think we've agreed to in some other locations. Instead, the agreement revolves around many of the other things like trash and rodents and working with the community and those kinds of issues. And the owner is currently out of town and we'll be back on the 2nd, so I can get he's already sent me an email that he's agreed. So we'll get the physical signatures when he is back in town. But I wanted to get this in front of the commission and so that we can vote this through and then talk about the stipulated license as well. But I'll answer any questions that anyone might have.
Questions from commissioners? Right. Any questions from members of the public? Right, seeing none. Commissioner Ray, would you like to proceed and do the next resolution because they're related, or do you want to do one at a time?
We can do them one at a time because when this passes, if this didn't pass for some reason, then the next one wouldn't matter. That's why.
All right. With that, I'll now accept a motion around this resolution.
I make the motion that we approve this settlement agreement with unanimous consent.
Is there any dissent? All right, hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted.
Thank you. So next on the agenda then is, having passed a settlement agreement, the next opportunity is to support this business by allowing them to begin operations with the entertainment while they're still going through the process of getting the final endorsement added to their license. So this letter of support would allow them to go to ABRA and say, hey, we have already met with the community and there are no concerns. And so they could add the entertainment early in the process. This, however, would not stop other community members from coming forward and doing their own protests if for some reason they had a problem, and then that would reverse our support. But I don't foresee that, and so therefore I am certainly happy to support St. Vincent's in getting the entertainment endorsement earlier. And that's what this is for, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Right, any questions from members of the public? All right, hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution with unanimous consent.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, the resolution passes and the resolution is adopted. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted, excuse me. All right.
Now, I will make some, sorry, just one further point in case that the secretary is still listening. I want to get the actual physical signatures before we turn all of this in. So I'll remind them to hold on to everything until we're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving, I'm going to pull the agenda back up. So moving on. So Commissioner Gallagher, if you just want to wrap up.
Sure, that was it for me on the zoning and economic development front. Thanks, Chair Fetter.
And just the next time that your committee is meeting is on July 12th. Awesome. All right, next we'll move on to Public Safety and Engagement Committee. Commissioner Lancaster. I'm sorry, Commissioner Newland. My apologies.
Thank you, Chair Porter. So the Public Safety and Engagement Committee, we met on June 12th and talked about a few different things. One of which was, additional agencies and organizations within the district that we could connect with to better understand some of the responsibilities and resources that are available for public safety in the district. And then we also discussed and passed at the committee level this resolution regarding the U.S. Attorney's Office for DC. So if we want to pull that up, I can just give a brief overview of what the resolution entails. Basically, it's calling on the USAO for short to improve coordination with local agencies that would then improve public safety for the district. So we recognize that this attorney's office is unique among its peer offices in that it's responsible for both local and federal prosecution of crimes and is appointed by the president and not elected. So as they are responsive and accountable to the citizens of the district, they declined to press charges in over 2/3 of cases that were brought before them last year. So as such, we're calling on the attorney's office to do 3 different things. The first of which is to explain the decline in prosecutions. Second of which is to work together with the relevant district entities, including MPD and the Forensic Sciences Lab or the Crime Lab, to resolve any issues in terms of jurisdiction or communication between them, and also work on re-accreditation of the Crime Lab. Their accreditation was lost in 2021, and that is one of the reasons that has been given for the decline in prosecutions. And then last of the 3 just urging the attorney's office, given their role in the city that I outlined previously, that they communicate and implement a strategy to prosecute local crimes more effectively. So I'm happy to answer any questions that commissioners or the public may have.
Any questions from commissioners?
Is that a misspelling in institute? I don't have any questions.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Right. Are there any questions from members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'll now accept a motion.
Motion to approve this resolution in unanimous consent.
Say again, what was the last part? With unanimous consent?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, going back to the agenda. Commissioner Newland, if you just wanted to wrap up, anything else?
Yeah, last thing, just again, welcome any commissioners participate in the public safety meeting, and for other commissioners and the public, our next meeting will be on July 10th. And we should have a few different things on the agenda, but look forward to everybody joining. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So that concludes our business for the evening. At this time, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Seconded.
Right, Commissioner Ridley. Commissioner, our secretary is left, so I'm going to just take a note. All right, there's a motion. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand.
Good night.
All those opposed, please raise your hand. Any abstentions? All right, with 5 votes in favor and 0 votes opposed, the motion passes and we are adjourned. Quick note, please note that next general meeting of ANC 1E will be on Wednesday, July 26th, and the committee on the whole will be on Tuesday, July 18th. Both meetings will be held virtually. Announcements and other information about ANC 1E are available at anc1e.org. Please feel free to contact any commissioners with any questions, and thank you for a great meeting this evening. Thanks all.